Okay, there, you've got the imagination, you've got the desire, and you really want to write a book, a novel. You've got your own little novel, a pulp novel, 50,000 words plus. You think you've got the ability, you've got the desire to do it, and if you enjoy doing it, then why not go for it? There's a lot of things that you've got to take into consideration. You're looking at a minimum of 50,000 plus words for a short, pulpy novel. I'm coming at you like this because I do pulpy novels. Lots of ideas. You read other books, you get ideas and things from all these, and you get everything you want down on paper. You've got your idea, you've got your novel down, you've managed to get it all down on paper. Obviously, it's got to be looked at. It's got to be. I mean, there's going to be hundreds and hundreds of things wrong with it. Loads of things wrong with it. You need independent, professional people scrutinising it. But in order to get there properly, there's lots of things you can do just to get some sort of an idea of how you want to present your work, how you've got to imagine the reader is going to be compelled by the story you're writing. You've got to get the right amount of dialogue in, showing the reader what's happening around, using the characters within your story to present all the questions that you would think the reader might ask, all the things you want to answer, rather than bogging them down with a load of narration. You want perhaps a bit of dialogue between your characters, telling or showing the reader what's going wrong, what's happening, how you're getting from the crux of your story through it. So I tend to like dialogue driven stories. Obviously you need a little bit of narration, you've got to have things here and there to say things, but there's lots of rules, but you need to develop a little format or a style, a signature of your own. You would also need, I think personally, to go to writing classes where you will get criticism from other people, like-minded people like yourself. Some of them will be pretty good at what they're doing, some of them might not be so good. So there's all sorts of criticisms that are going to come at you, but you've got to harden up and listen to all these criticisms. You will be offering criticisms to other people at writing classes yourself, and you can bounce off of one another and learn things, and you will gradually improve in your presentation of your story through going to writing classes and through learning from teachers and so forth. You've done all of this, okay? You've been doing this for a couple of years. You've got your story down, and you've developed it a little bit, but there's still lots of mistakes. No way on earth do you go ahead and publish it without without proper editorial work done on it. First and foremost, you get a first edit and you look for professional people. There's lots of people online that say they're editors, and they're not necessarily real proper editors. There's a STMF or STMP qualification for good editors, and there's sites out there that do have all these qualified editors in an agency. I'll put a link down below to that, but you will present your work and you will get people bidding for it. If you've got a novel, say a pulpy novel, because I'm coming at you from a pulpy fictional novel angle because that's what I like doing, but that you might be someone that wants to write factual things, like documentary things and so forth. You might want to write about fishing if you're a fisherman, or gardening if you do gardening, all sorts of things. There's lots of things, but for me it's pulpy fictional novels. I like historical fiction, I like science fiction. You might like romantic fiction or something like that. It all comes into the same sort of way of presentation, say around 50,000 plus words for a small pulp novel. And I keep repeating myself, but I'm trying to give you a sort of a basic idea. Once you've got this down and you've had an editor, a qualified editor, look at it, it comes back at you and it flows a lot better than what it did before. You've then got to get it formatted. Now, there are good formatters, especially through Amazon. They can advise you, people they use, if you're going to get your book published on Amazon, they will advise you people that are good at formatting. you can get this done, and they'll have all the chapters all worked out for you, so you can sequence them and everything from paperback to Kindle. You can even do audibles. I've had a couple of mine done on Audible as well. But once you've done all this, you've got your edit done, you've had it formatted, it's still not going to be completely right. You do need a proofread after that, a second format, and that's even with all your formatting done. You're going to have to go back into it, and your proofreader or second edit work is going to find little mistakes here, there and everywhere, even within the formatting. And then it goes back, after you've had your second edit or proofread, it goes back to the formatters for a second time, and they will correct all these odd little things, and then you've got your script basically how you want it. You might later on find odd little words here or there that are not working, and you can always go in and get the formatters to change these. That doesn't, if it's 1 or 2 words on this page, on that page, they'll usually do that for nothing. So you can constantly change odd little things, but you do have to go to the original formatters to get this done, otherwise everything's thrown out of sync. Now, once you've got all your script, everything edited to the way you want it, it's been proofread, it's been formatted, again, I'm going all over the same things again. You've got your work there, and what you need is obviously you want your front cover. You want a nice stylish front cover. The spine's got to be done. You want a nice back blurb presentation. So you've got to get all these things done. So you've got to find an artist. Just because the artist is good at drawing a picture doesn't mean to say that the font work that the artist does will be to your liking. So personally, I would just get them to do the picture, a big PDF picture, and then when you go in to get it done, you might have it on a 5 inches by 8 inches front, or a 6 by 9, depending on what you want. But you'll get the PDF done in that, and you will then you will look again. There's more sites out there for people that will do font work for the title, which is the title and the subtitle and the author name, the spine and the back bump. You can get other people apart from the artist to do this, because just because an artist can draw a good picture for the front cover of your book doesn't always mean to say that the font is the same. They're good with the font. It could be a little bit bland over a good picture. So you also want the font to be a little bit eye-catching, and you've got people that specialise in that, especially on sites like Fiverr. You'll find someone that will do a nice font for you, even if you've already got the image that you want. So we're down to presenting the front cover, the spine and the back, because you want all this down the spine done properly as well with the author name, and you want the back bump. Look, they did a nice little covering and presentation like this. You get all sorts of people all over the world that will design you nice fonts and nice covers at a reasonable price. Obviously, you'll get an artist to design the front cover for you. So what I'm trying to say is the front cover and the font doesn't necessarily have to all be done by the artist. Sometimes I prefer to get the artist just to do the front cover image and then ask someone else to do the font over the image. So I use 2 people, but there are some that can do you a nice front cover with font as well. So again, that's up to you. What I'm coming back now to, once that's all done, then your book is ready to go out there. You're up on Amazon, you're up and running, and you're not getting anyone buy it because it's not really attracting much interest. So this is where you might you could either advertise it on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. There's other areas like Instagram. People do all sorts of things. I can only sort of speak of Facebook advertising because that's the one where I've had a lot of success. I do aim to try other places as well, but you can get a business account on Facebook linked to your Facebook page. You'll have an author Facebook page. Don't use your normal Facebook page where all your local friends are. Have an author Facebook page completely different, right down the side, because you're not going to start wanting to peddle your book to all your friends. You don't want them as your target audience. I don't mean that disrespectfully, but many of them might not be really interested in your novel. They're probably happy that you've done it, but You want to find people that want to read your novel. So you've got a great big wide world out there, especially with Facebook, and you pick out all the words that you would think people would associate with your book. If it's a science fiction book, you might put all sorts of, you're obviously going to put science fiction reading, post-apocalyptic fiction, all things like that. An age group that you're aiming at for people. Maybe it's only for male orientated audience, you put just male. If it's for female orientated audience, female. If it's all genders, fair enough. But you've got to make sure you know what your target audience is, and that can all be fun as well, because once you get that all set up and running, Facebook then goes out and starts, because you've got to get images as well with your Facebook campaign, something to do with your book, little small images with little captions of writing. And when people click onto it, it takes them straight to the Amazon page. You want a small amount of chain of links as possible to get to the purchase page. So if you can get people interested in an image or anything concerning your book, something that gives a little bit of an impression of what your story is about, and people click onto it out of interest, it takes them straight to the page with all the book bump and what it costs, whether it's in paperback, Kindle, and so on. You want all of these things. So obviously I'm packing all this into one little session of chatting to you, but everything's got to be done in stages, and it takes time. And you learn these things as you go along. It's a learning process. But you will find that once you start target advertising, I can only speak from experience of Facebook, it can be quite lucrative and successful. You start selling books on a daily basis, especially if you've got all the formatting and the editorial work done right, and you've developed a style and you've stuck to it. You know, you're not doing off on tangents. You've got to be able to produce a style that people want to read. Even if it's doing well, you're still going to get the odd stinker of a review now and then, but you have to stick with it. You know, you've got to try your best. But the vast majority of the reviews and ratings are very good. So I'm happy. It gives you more ideas to do other things. If you can get one up and running, one good one up and running, you find you begin to develop more of an enthusiasm. You will write other pulp stories. I keep going on about pulp stories because that's what I like doing, but you've got to get the sequence of how you go about it right. You've got everything on paper. You might keep combing it yourself before you send it to a proper qualified editor. That will take a few weeks. The editor might have a backlog of work, so you might have to sit in a queue, but you're looking at between around about £600 plus to get a good editorial work done on 50,000 plus words for an editorial fictional novel. And it's got to have some quality about it, in the sense of you've got to have the goal and you've got to stick to the goal. I would advise people to try and look at using dialogue between your characters to move the story on as often as possible. Obviously, you're going to need narration, and there are people that are very good at narrating. It's just not my personal strong point. I do use a narration to make descriptive things here and there, but I always like to have the characters talking and chatting with one another as things are happening. So it just gives a feeling of being a fly on the wall while the story is progressing. So it's each to their own, but if you've got the ability to sit down and get it all this down on paper, then you've also, and go to writing classes for all these various critics of one another's work, including some of the criticism that's going to come back at you, constructive criticism that is, you start to develop. And it is all about development. It's, you're not going to get everything right straight away. But as things start to develop, you will become more enthusiastic about what you're doing. So you're trying to get something down on paper, what you want. I would advise going to writing classes for critiques, and all the people that run it might offer 1,200 words of homework each week. You're not always going to want to do the homework because you're doing your own work, but I'll give some of it a try and see what sort of criticisms come back. You start to develop little styles of your own, and you can incorporate that into your main work. But once you've got everything down and you're feeling a little bit confident and good about what you've done, then start looking. I know I'm going back over the ground that I've already covered, but then start looking for the qualified editors on the sites. Then formatting. Once formatted, second edit or a proofread. I always tend to mix them up as the same. It's got to be done again because there will be odd little things that will be out of sequence and wrong. That can all be corrected. Then a second reformatting. There are probably little touch-ups here and there where the proofreaders found things. So then you've got all your work up and ready. Then you've got to go for your, I'm going all over the same thing again. Then you've got to go for your front cover. You want your front cover done, font, so and so, and this. And then the different platforms like Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram for target marketing. For a $5 a day, you can target market a title. If you get everything right, you only need to sell 2 books a day, and you've got your $5 a day back, and you can gradually increase the income of that. Every now and then at the end of the month, you might change the word alignment for the people that you're targeting. But these things are really good to take into account if you're going to be self-publishing, which is what I do. But don't just write something and then publish it. You've got to follow that sequence of editorial, proofreading, formatting. You've got to get that right. You've really got to get that right. And writing classes, I would suggest, are a must for honest and decent criticism. A lot of knockbacks, get up, dust yourself down, have fun with what you're doing. If you like writing and you have fun and you get some enjoyment out of creating a story, then it's a smashing little hobby to have. You can do anything working wise, and you can indulge yourself for this when you're sitting in sometimes rather than watching TV. But if you've got ideas and you want to get them down on paper, do all them things that I've suggested. Go for it, because you can do it. Good luck.